Hello there and welcome back to Forza Motorsport Rivals, the spin-off where we pit a couple of cars with common ground and close PIs against each other to see which one comes out on top. In this final episode we focus on two Chevrolet muscle cars, one modern and one modernised via Restomodding. First up, the Restomodded Chevrolet Chevelle SS. Restomodding is the act of taking an old car and modifying it with modern day technology to get the best of both worlds. Of course we have covered the history of the Chevelle in a previous Rivals episode, so we won't delve into that too much here. Not that it'd be very relevant to this Chevelle, as almost every piece is changed. For performance, the engine is now a colossal 9.4 litre V8 GM crate engine with 4-barrel carburetor mated to a TCI 6-speed automatic transmission. Suspension is Pro Touring, and to get it stocked big Wilwood brakes, which you can see clearly behind the rather gearish 20-inch Zanti wheels. That brings us nicely to aesthetics. While it looks fairly standard, most of the panels are new, along with a chopped roof and a respray. The interior sees perhaps the most drastic changes of all. A handmade dashboard houses both a custom gauge cluster, along with a JVC navigation system with rear view camera. Other features include push button start, electronic handbrake and parking sensors, along with a sound system the Underground would be proud of. This just scratches the surface of perhaps one of the most impressive and complete resto-modded cars ever, and certainly gives this Chevelle a fighting chance against even modern muscle cars. Next up, the Chevrolet Camaro SS. This is the 6th generation of Chevrolet's long-lived Camaro, with the 5th generation seeing a success as a retro-styled muscle car, and the return to popularity for the muscle car in general. The 6th generation Camaro aimed to continue its success while moving away from the retro style, much like Ford Mustang. The 6th generation Camaro launched for the 2016 model year and was actually a smaller car than its predecessor, as well as being over 200 pounds lighter. At launch it was available with 3 engine choices, including a 2 litre 4-cylinder, however the top model was the historical SS model, featuring the 6.2 litre V8 from the C7 Corvette Stingray, mateable to either a 6-speed manual or 8-speed automatic. The SS was available as either the standard 1SS or the 2SS with more luxury equipment. Since then we've seen the launch of the more hardcore ZL1 and ZL1 LE, designed to go against the Shelby GT350R and Dodge Hellcats. Despite popularity for modern muscle cars staying strong, along with the wider appeal thanks to a move towards better driving dynamics, the future of the Camaro seems uncertain, with reports indicating a 2023 discontinuation may be on the cards. Still, the Camaro has died before, and unlike its sibling, the Camaro is always ready to rise like a phoenix. So there you go, 2 General Motors products with alterations to help them fit into the modern world, but which will be quicker, built or bought? On to the track then, and we begin with the 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle SS Barrett-Jackson edition, 620 horsepower, 645 foot-pound torque, 3,898 pounds of weight. This is of course the most powerful car here today, the torquiest car here today, and the heaviest car here today. Although it's not actually the heaviest car by all that much, so that's something to bear in mind. The Chevrolet Chevelle, of course we've covered this before, not my favourite of the muscle cars, but it does look pretty cool, I'll give it that. And I do have to say, this resto-modded Barrett-Jackson version has been done really well. They've thought of everything in this car, and they've done a really good job of it. There's some design decisions I don't agree on. The wheels I think are absolutely appalling, and some of the other stuff is a little bit weird, but overall this is just a really complete, well done car. As far as it goes to drive, well, you can modernise a car a lot, however, at the end of the day when it comes to this thing, it is still a 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle, and as such it does retain some of the poor driving dynamics of that car. It is very understeery, which is one thing I noticed. You don't get so much of the roll and the lean that you did in the actual 1970s car. The suspension is much better in that regard. But yeah, you do keep a lot of the understeer. The differential's pretty poor, but perhaps the biggest disappointment with this car is the brakes. The brakes are really bad on this thing, which is weird considering how massive they are. So yeah, but it's still a pretty okay car to drive, definitely better than any standard Chevelle. And next up, the 2016 Chevrolet Camaro SS, 455 horsepower, 455 foot-pound torque, 3,672 pounds of weight. Now, despite the fact that this car is on quite a major power deficit, the Camaro should do better at this. The Camaro is a much more modern car, and of course we know the Camaro these days is pretty famed for its much better driving dynamics. Of course, the ZL1 1LE are terrific driving cars. The standard S's maybe not so, but we'll get into that later. Now, I'm not a massive Camaro person, I'll be honest. Out of the 3 sort of major muscle cars, the Camaro, the Mustang, And the Challenger, this is my least favourite. I've never been a Camaro person. I've always found them to be a little bit too discount Mustang for me. They're getting better. They sometimes beat the Mustang in certain statistics, but overall I'd much rather have a Mustang. As far as the Camaro SS goes to drive, the first thing you need to know about this car is the visibility is appalling. It's really abysmal from interior view. You can barely see out this thing, so do bear that in mind if you do race cockpit. Other than that, it's okay. It's a little bit floaty, which I guess I was kind of expecting because the Mustang GT has a very similar issue. Both the 2015 Mustang and this, they both drive older than they are, which is weird. They sort of drive more like 80s, 90s sports cars in this game, which is really weird considering real life apparently they're supposed to be quite good, but that's something to bear in mind. In terms of the times, well, the Chevrolet Camaro was the quickest car today, going to 179th place with a 121.698, but the Chevelle is not too far behind in 183rd place with a 121.928, so yeah, pretty decent enough times from both of those cars. The Camaro is 2 seconds clear of the Mustang GT, which is pretty impressive. The Chevelle beats now a Dodge Challenger Hellcat, a modern Hellcat Challenger, which I guess would probably be its closest rival in game, so yeah, pretty good showing from both of these cars. As far as which one of these cars I like the most, which one of these cars would I actually pick, I'm not a huge fan of either. I can definitely pick holes in both of them. However, I do have to admire the Chevelle more. The craftsmanship that's gone into that car, the amount of time and effort into bringing it up to a modern standard is really very, very impressive. And it's even to the point where there's some decisions made that maybe enthusiasts would not like so much. You know, the automatic transmission, electronic parking brake, the reversing camera, stuff like that. It's all interesting little things that have been added to that Chevelle, and it does feel like a more complete package. And I'm sure in real life it actually drives pretty well, almost like a modern car, but with the looks of an older car. And really, that's what Restomodding is all about. Anyways, and that is it for this edition of Full Stop Gear Laps Rivals. Do hope you enjoyed, and that's it for Rivals in general. That is it. That's the final episode. Of course, we are running up to the end of Season 5 of Top Gear Laps, and as such, Rivals is no more. Perhaps a slightly anticlimactic end to this series. I do hope you've enjoyed Rivals. Do let me know which one's been your favourite episode down below in the comment section, and yeah, that's it for Rivals. It may return one day, maybe Top Gear Laps will return one day if Top Gear exists in another game, but yeah, either way, thank you all very much for watching, thank you all for supporting the series, and join us next time for the main episode where we're going to cover some of the last cars we have to cover, part 2. So join us for that. Until then, farewell.
You know the fear, the sorrow that my heart holds in, knowing just where my hopes and dreams are going. I'll only you bear. Got up in a wall that you are not part of. Eyes on this letter you'll follow.